ahead. Usually it says it doesn't.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at 4:33 p.m. Start with roll call. Alder Galvin is excused. Alder Johnson?
Here.
Alder Hinkfist? Here. And myself are present. Entertain a motion of approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to regular business number 1, consideration and possible action to approve the crossing guard service award to all city management services for an estimated amount of $1,140,000 for a 3-year contract or $380,000 per year effective June 1st, 2025. Do we want to start with staff, or do anyone have specific questions?
Staff.
Do you want an overview? Are you able to give us an overview?
Yes.
Come on up.
Sure.
Did you guys pick today because you knew Galvin wouldn't be here?
So the city's been doing this for about 5 years now. The first contract has gone and it's gone up for renewal, and this is the reason why the RFP is in front of you today. The RFP in front of you today is with a new company because they had merged with CrossSafe and All City Management. All City Management is a bigger company. In my opinion, has really taken over and taken it to a new level, in my opinion. They work with a lot of cities, especially in Wisconsin, where CrossSafe didn't have the reach that All Cities does. Just to give you some perspective, the Crossing Guard program reaches 32 schools in the city of Green Bay. It's staffed by 38 guards. Some guards have multiple schools in the morning and afternoon. We try to have relief guards. Keep in mind that the RFP is for $380,000. That is a moving number. There is a shortage of crossing guards. People just don't want to be crossing guards anymore. If people are watching this video, I hope that they consider it as a good part-time job. This All Cities Management does a very good job taking care of their employees, training, and just their wellness overall. But they have done an incredible job with recruiting, and we're trying to get up to that 38 number. And that's why in that $380,000 per year in the course of the contract, and that's how you're staffing that number. To follow up a conversation we had previously, we had a bill back, so if they do not staff an intersection, because if for some reason there's a labor shortage, we've had community service officers or police officers staffing intersections, that does come at a considerable cost for the city. The bill back rate is $50 an hour. Which is considerable because the previous contract was $6 an hour. That is considerable, which we run the reports, and specifically if I run the reports the first Monday of every month, and I send it back, and that's a credit on the invoice for the following month. I can tell you that this program and working with Human Resources over the last 5 years has saved countless hours of staff time processing guards, because there is a large turnover of guards from year to year, even from month to month. The people that become crossing guards for whatever reason, life challenges, the turnover rate is pretty high. And we're always continually training those guards, so the staff time to onboard them and train them is very high, and most importantly, to retain them. So the cost, though may seem high on paper, in the long run, this is a huge benefit to outsource this to this company, and I would recommend that this be approved.
And I know we talked about this, but just for everybody else, how much were we spending when we were doing this ourselves as a department?
So when I took this over about 5 years ago, we were in probably the $450,000 range. We've cut that back, but that number is deceiving too, because there's always been a shortage of guards. So we were, though we may have saved on that line item, we were probably spending money in the other line item of overtime or staff time in the police department. But we have shaved probably $125,000 off the crossing guard line item in the budget over the last 5 years.
Okay. And you said the bill back is $50 an hour?
I was just told that by
Wow.
Tom. Kudos to Tom here for negotiating that outstanding contract article.
It's amazing. Okay. Of the 38 guards, on average, how many would you say we actually had this year that was staffed by the previous contract?
Like, what do you, like,
Did we on average have about 30 of those filled? And
now I would say probably 26,
Okay,
25.
so you're hopeful
I mean,
we'll get closer to that
Yeah,
30
I'm
with this
I'm
company?
hoping we're getting up there. And then, you know, in a dream scenario, we'd have relief guards for people to step into.
Okay. Go ahead, Alder Johnson.
Yeah, and Commander, you kind of alluded to this, which was the build back, and I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. So 38 is our total goal. 26 is on average what you're thinking for like what they were able to hire. So we were billing back on average a dozen or so.
Give or take. I mean, some guards would try to take multiple intersections if they could, depending on the school day or school times, given the day.
And who is typically filling those roles?
Community service officers were our primary, so we would arrange the interns or the community service officers first, their schedules around their school schedules, and then police officers when they were not available.
Do you have a sense of kind of what that breakdown was? And the reason I'm asking,
The
right-
majority of it was police officers. If
Okay.
just based on the reports that I saw, the majority of it was officers' time.
Okay. The reason I bring that up, of course, is, I mean, one, that's saying a patrol officer or, you know, or somebody else, right, out of service. But the other piece is I know our bill back time, or what we bill for community events, is, I think, north of $85 an hour. So while I can appreciate 50 is an improvement, I mean, in theory, one could argue we're still short.
Yeah, no, we're definitely short, yep.
So obviously, I think there's, I don't know, like somehow we've got to figure out how to close that gap, and this is me waving my magic wand, right? I get it's not that easy, so.
Yeah, I see where you're going on the business side of the house. Previous contract was $6 an hour, and I think that, I mean, almost insulting a little bit, but I can understand why we got to that point. But the officer's only there for a half hour. I mean, but 30 minutes is still 30 minutes too long. But I am confident from what I've seen with All Cities management that they're going to get up to that where they don't want us. They don't want us to be used.
Right.
And they've made that very clear to me and the other staff that are part of this program.
And as far as, I guess, has it really been 5 years already on this
Yeah.
agreement?
Probably 4.5, give or take, yeah, because we carried it all 3, and Tom could speak on this, and then we did an 18-month extension, and that got us to May 31st.
Okay, and so I mean, if you were to, I don't know if you have this data handy, reflect back on how much we've spent on average per year with this service, do you have a sense of what that number would be? Or is 380 in alignment with what we have been spending?
So we budgeted 360 this year, and I would give, it's probably within $10 to $15,000 of that every year, just with budget adjustments. Like crossing guards just got a 3% raise, just to be, with inflation last year. So, probably 340, 350, 360 would be my best guess without doing the financials in front of you.
Yeah, and that kind of variance, I think, is,
Reasonable.
yeah, reasonable.
For Alder Johnson.
Mhm.
The 2024 actuals are 358,000.
Okay.
Paid that vendor.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then, and again, I just wanting to understand, so this merger is, that you had mentioned is with the existing company plus another one?
So the merger was with CrossSafe. I'm sorry, excuse me. CrossSafe had the original contract, and they merged with All Cities Management, which we are currently under contract with All Cities Management until May 31st. This RFP, the reason, because that contract under CrossSafe that they took over, that expires May 31st, and the purpose of this RFP is for May 31st and beyond.
So the crossing guards that we currently have will automatically transfer within that?
They've already
Seven.
transferred.
Okay, and then maybe just a broader discussion, right? Had we been recommending a different company, do those individuals transfer if they go to a different company?
If they choose.
If they choose, but that would have to be like a whole recruitment process all over again. Do we have any access, I guess, to that data, right? Where that vendor is required to sort of share that contact information with us if needed?
I don't see why they wouldn't give that to us. I mean, it would be to the city's
not
benefit,
renewing their
right? I
contract.
mean, we need guards. Both companies want to put guards in
Right.
in their seats. or in the intersections, I should say, so.
Yeah, sorry, and I'm thinking more about when this contract expires.
Yeah, and I think that's what the RFP process, and again, Tom's been awesome to work with, just to address issues like that, to make sure that the onboarding process from one vendor to the next is seamless.
Okay.
My mom's been a crossing guard for 15 years.
God
So when this came across, I looked at the numbers and went, oh my gosh, those numbers seem high. But after going through them, they do seem reasonable. And it is a job with high turnover and multiple contact points. I mean, my mom works as needed, and I swear to God, she works every day of the week.
Yeah,
And they kind of self-manage themselves in Ashwaubenon, but this is much larger with 32 to 33, and they do have the police, so, and it's a better, definitely, a better use of time, but the numbers seem to make sense. I would support it.
thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Is this your last meeting with us?
Yes.
Well, we're gonna miss you in Green Bay.
Well, then we have 10 more questions for you.
Is that why they put you up here?
No, but it's been an honor to work with all of you. I'm gonna miss each and every one of you.
Excited for your new opportunity too. That's a big deal
Yes,
for
very
you.
much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is a big deal.
Want to see what your motion is?
Motion to approve contract.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 2, consideration with possible action on approving up to $75,000 of contingency fund to repair the water slides at Joanne's Aquatic Center.
So items 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand. Here's just an attachment I didn't have ready for the agenda packet for the next item. So once every 5 years, we are required by state law to do an inspection of all of our aquatic slides. So that's usually done by Public Works and park engineers. They do it jointly. They go out and do an inspection. So they went out to Joanne's and Resch this year, inspected both of those. Resch, there were no issues or concerns. But at Joanne's, they flagged a few structural concerns with the aquatic slides at the center. And they recommended that we contract out services with a structural engineer to take a more thorough investigative study of the slides to determine whether or not they're safe to open to the public. So we did that, we hired them. They were on site a few weeks ago, did a more thorough investigation. I've included the report in the agenda packet if you want to see the details of what they are recommending. But in summary, what they are saying is the slides are not safe to open to the public in the condition that they're currently in. So there's significant repairs that need to be done to the structural steel support columns. So these slides are held in place by a big vertical column, and then there's wing supports that come off that attach to the slides. The majority of those wing supports have rusted to the point where it's affected the structural integrity of the wings and the structural components. So in the report, they're recommending we replace a large number of those, but not all of them. But they all are showing some wear of rust. And so as part of this, we're actually recommending, if we're going to go through the effort of replacing the bulk of them anyway, let's just replace all of them. That way we don't have to do continual inspections and then replace the last few in a year or two. In addition, they recommended that there's wood staircases that go up to the slides. Most of the wood is in good condition as far as the structural components go, but much of the railing needs to be replaced. The railing just has worn to the point where they're not structurally sound anymore. And there are also a few kind of stringers that have to be replaced, but it's minimal. So the total cost to do the repairs is $75,000. We have to do one of two things in order to open those slides to the public. A, either repair the slides for an estimated cost of $75,000, or B, replace the slides in their entirety. We did reach out to a consultant who does engineering. It's actually our consultant that did the conceptual design for the Joanne's Aquatic Center. And they estimated anywhere in the range of 1 million to 1.5 million to replace the slides in their entirety. That would be the drop slide and the two other larger slides. And the reason there's a variation in price is because it really depends on how many slides you want to put there. Do you want to replace them with 3 slides? Do you just want 2?
Wait, we're not replacing slides.
No, I'm just saying that that's the other option, is repair or replace. The cost to replace would be either 1 million to 1.5 million, depending on the height of the slides and how many you replace. Until the time we do one or the other, those slides are closed to the public. As you know, we've gone through the start of a master planning process for the Joannes Aquatic Center. One thing that we asked the public is, do you want slides? In our proposed master plan, we didn't show slides. We said, we have slides at the Resch. Do you want slides at the Joannes Aquatic Center? Overwhelmingly, the public wants slides at the Joannes Aquatic Center. So in my final master plan that I'm going to be proposing within the next few weeks or month or so, I will be proposing in that master plan to replace the slides, along with other improvements that we've talked about, and I'll present a phasing plan, etc. I don't anticipate that we'll be able to fund Joannes improvements all in one bonding cycle. Just to do basic maintenance repairs without actually improving anything or adding any features, you're talking $3+ million, which I think I've shared that with the Parks Committee, at least in the past. I'm not sure if I've shared it with the Finance Committee. And that would include slide replacement. So we have about 1.5 million just to do general maintenance repairs that are going to have to be done in the next couple of years, or we might have to shut the facility down, in addition to the slides, which is $1 to $1.5 million. So those are the options right now. You don't have to go ahead with the repairs. The Parks Department does not have adequate funding in place to do the repairs to the slide. That's why we're recommending, if the Finance Committee and City Council want to proceed with the repairs, we are recommending using contingency funding. Just to kind of bleed into the next conversation topic for item 3 on the agenda, we did reach out and get quotes from a company to do the recommended steel work to see, can we even get the work done in time for this aquatic center season. So there is one company that we've worked with in the past who actually did work on these slides 5 years ago, the last time we did some inspections on it. And they quoted a price of $56,000 to do the steel work. Now, that doesn't include the woodwork. The woodwork will cost about another, I think it was $14,000 roughly, to buy the lumber, but then our park carpenters can do the lumber work. We can't do the steel work. So the combination of the lumber work and the steel work come out to the $75,000. This company says that if we jump on it, they are ready to go with these repairs immediately after council approves the funding and awarding the contract. The contract is placed next on the agenda because it's over the $50,000 threshold that I'm able to approve. So again, you don't have to approve this today. You don't have to approve the funding. The complication is the slides are down until we either repair or replace the slides.
What do you have in maintenance in your budget now for the parks? I mean, for that park?
I
I mean,
apologize.
56,000 doesn't seem like a very big number.
I don't have my budget book with me. I can get back to you on that. But we don't budget for these large type of kind of capital maintenance improvements in our budget for the pools. I mean, we're budgeting for toilet paper and product and just small minor repairs. We don't have $75,000 in our annual budget in our pool maintenance account.
We may not, but I'm assuming we have some budget. Like if we needed, we would have known we needed a railing placed, maybe not
No.
the other stuff. But
No, we wouldn't have known that because we do the inspections once every 5 years and the inspection is done this spring.
Right, so you're saying from a parks perspective, we do not put aside basic maintenance costs. So if we gotta do some basic work, we don't have a fund for that for
We
each park?
do if it's an expected maintenance expense. This was an unexpected one. So for example, with our pools, oftentimes we replace caulk and tile on an annual basis. So we have a little
Right.
bit of money put aside for caulk and tile replacements. We kind of forecast that the previous year when we're doing our budget. In this situation, the inspections weren't done until this spring. Had we done the inspections last fall, we might have been able to include it in the budget, depending on whether or not the timing worked on the inspections by the time the budget was approved. So, we might be able to throw a couple $1,000s, but nothing close to 75,000.
It just doesn't seem like a very big budget number in the scope of the whole park's budget, so.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to probably cross into a few different areas here, too.
Sure.
Dan and I did talk about this the other week, and I know originally he had mentioned looking at doing this from the general fund. I told him I preferred the contingency, but for the purpose of the committee, I wanted everyone to kind of know that there are different options. It doesn't have to come out of contingency, but I feel like we've not spent our contingency the last few years, and I'd rather do that than dip in the general fund and then go to general fund later if there's another contingency that comes up that was unexpected. That was my preference, but again, if the committee thinks otherwise or the full council thinks otherwise, there always is that other option.
I agree with that. I just, in looking at, it's like, what could we not do for a few months that we could do here that might, there's a way to change work around.
I guess the other option, which...
Because in the document, it said, we looked at all options, and the only option is contingency.
Well, ARPA interest, right? There's other options, but it's kind of what contingency's for.
I mean, there is one other option, but it's definitely not my preferred option. I mean, on an annual basis, we bond for certain projects. I could come back and recommend we don't do one of those projects we bonded for, and we instead use this bond money for this. I
don't
gone
think we
through
can do
my
that
list.
from a public perspective.
Yeah. I mean, that's just another option that could be considered, but,
Sure.
as far as available funding, the only ones that I'm aware of would be the contingency fund or the ARPA interest fund. I don't even think the ARPA would qualify, because I don't think that Joanne's Park is in a qualified census tract, but I don't know that for certain.
Isn't the interest unrestricted, though?
The interest is unrestricted, but
Yeah.
the general ARPA.
Yeah, and I was
we
thinking
couldn't
interest, but-
use.
A few more questions yet. So you had mentioned the replacement, or the master plan essentially, right? Is that currently in our 5-year capital improvement plan?
Portions of it are. So I do have probably about $3 million in the 5-year capital improvement plan to replace the staircase towers, to do plaster repair, to replace the gutters. It's roughly in the range of $2 to $3 million is already in our capital improvement plan just to do basic maintenance needs. That is not to actually implement any additional things that the public would like to see there.
So that's really not the implementation of the master plan, that's just basic
Correct.
maintenance.
And
Okay.
even in my 5-year capital improvement plan, I didn't have any work on the slides itself. I just proposed to replace the staircase towers because they're made out of wood.
Sure.
At the time, I didn't know that there were any structural defects in the steel.
Okay. Do you have a sense of how many users we have in the park? I know it's hard to tie them back to the slide, but do we get admission numbers for the park itself?
We do, but I don't have those on me. Again, I can get you that information by the council meeting if that's something you want.
I know when I go down there, there's a lot of people there.
And then kind of ties into the same question, right? Like how many months a year is the slide open? 3 months?
Yeah, 3
Presume?
months roughly.
Okay. And when we look at that master plan, because, I've been getting some questions around this, I'm sure others have too. In the master plan, at least to my knowledge, was not in the 5-year capital improvement plan. And of course, you get the age-old, fix the streets before that stuff. But it is possible to adopt a master plan for a park without allocating funding. right? So
We
just because,
regularly do that.
right, and so just because we adopt the master plan doesn't mean that we're automatically funding a park. And the reason I bring that up is because we really, knowing that the implementation of the master plan is not in our 5-year capital improvement plan, there's no definitive direction for the parks team right now to know, even if replacement's on the table, right? We've got a lot of bonding
Yeah, and
requests.
that scares me.
Right,
That's
so I raised that point
part of the
because
reason I asked about the maintenance.
75,000 to get these things up and rolling, and quite frankly, will serve a need probably for several years before we're even fiscally capable of talking about the adoption of a bigger plan. And then the last thing, Dan, I kind of wanted to ask, the water parks, they're just part of your general Parks Department budget, right?
Correct.
So there's not a special fund for those?
Correct.
Has that ever been contemplated?
No, it has, not to my knowledge, not since I've been director.
Okay, and do the water parks, do they generate net income, or are they deficient? Are they subsidized?
They're deficient. For the most part, the Resch Aquatic Center comes close to breaking even, is my recollection. But Joannes and Colburn lose money and they're tax subsidized.
Okay. And the reason I bring that up too, right, one, I think that's worth looking at in general. And we had this discussion a little bit around Triangle Hill as well. Because I think about, and you were alluding to this, Alder Hinkfist, is a lot of organizations will typically have a capital improvement fund, right? So that you set aside 25, 50, 100,000 a year, whatever it is for the asset, so that when these needs come up, you have a fund that's
Right.
there.
Yes.
If you have a special fund, obviously that becomes a lot easier to do. Otherwise, you're just going to the levy or you're looking at bonding to do these things year over year. And I just wonder if it might be a more effective way to care for these assets, into the future, to make sure that they're getting the maintenance improvements that they need.
That's a good option.
Yeah, but I think this is important, right? We have a lot of folks that use it, and I appreciate you being put on the spot with exact numbers, but if it's, it's busy, people in our community appreciate it. I think it's a small amount to pay for something that has such a big impact for our community, and we don't otherwise have an end date of how long these things would potentially be down if we don't put them back in service.
No, we definitely have to put them back in service. I just was, and I'm glad we had the discussion, because in my mind, we would have had large amounts of money set aside, because we know there's going to be these huge improvements.
And what I can tell you is, even with doing these repairs, this is still not a long-term solution for
Right.
the continuation of these slides. In the master plan, as far as when I put together a budget and phasing plan, I will be proposing to replace these. What this does is it buys us about 5 years of use, so that we can figure out the phasing and the budget and figure out how we're going to implement building something new there. Next inspection does not have to occur for 5 more years. Now, we will do more regular inspections, we are going to make sure, but technically, by state standards, we don't have to do another one for 5 more years. But like I said, we'll be proactive, we'll make sure they're safe on an annual basis. But we may be having this exact same conversation 5 years ago, when other things start to fail on those slides.
Dan, do you guys ever contemplate budgeting for repairs when you know inspections are scheduled?
No, I would say.
Okay. It's not like this has come up very often, right? It might be more of a strategic way sometimes to approach the budgeting cycle.
It's very similar to bridge inspections. So Public Works has to do bridge inspections periodically. Again, you never know what repairs are going to be needed for their bridge inspections until you do the inspection. But what we could look at doing is, instead of doing these inspections in the spring of the year, maybe we can make a more conscious effort to do it maybe late summer or early fall, so that if there are budgetary issues that need to be addressed, we can address it as part of the next year's budget cycle.
What is the normal lifespan for a slide? Are we happy with what we've seen from these?
Yeah, this facility was built in the 90s, so these slides are definitely aged. They've aged well.
This is the first major repair.
Well, we did some other repairs 5 years ago, but nothing quite as major as this. We had significant leaking in the slides, which we had to repair. Again, we had to replace some of the wood members, so things were done 5 years ago.
Okay. How many quotes did we get for the repairs?
And so I can talk more about that in the next agenda item if you want, but right now this agenda item is just to approve the funding. I guess it doesn't matter who we award the bid to if you don't approve the funding.
Okay.
Ice Ice Baby was top of the charts when this thing was built. I'd make a motion to approve up to $75,000 of contingency funding for the purposes of repairing the water slides at Germanis Park.
And I will second that, because we cannot close them.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Then on to number 3, consideration of possible action on hiring Benson and Hull for $56,200 to complete the necessary steel repairs on the water slides at Joanne's Aquatic Center.
So earlier I handed out this single source form. We worked with the purchasing department on this. They've agreed that this would qualify as a single source for quoting it out. So we only did receive one quote for this, and part of that was just due to the timeliness of it. When you go through the standard quote process, it takes longer. In order to get these slides up and running to be in use for this pool season, we had to go through a kind of a faster quote process. We have worked with this company in the past. This was the company we worked with 5 years ago that actually disassembled the slides, put in rubber gaskets to stop the leaking, and they did a good quality job with that. So we're very happy with this vendor. They are familiar with these particular slides, and more importantly, they have time available to literally jump on this as soon as it's approved and have it done by mid-June, which therefore will have the bulk of the aquatic center. These slides will be open. If we were to go through the standard quote process and bring this forward to the next finance committee and city council to approve awarding it to another vendor, let's 2 weeks, 4 weeks later, and maybe the low quote might not even be able to fit the timeline here. So our goal here was to find a contractor that could do it quickly, so we could utilize these slides this year.
Okay.
Could do sole source.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Director Dejay.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, consideration of possible action on request for a city resolution authorizing Investment Creations LLC to submit a community development investment grant application to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for the proposed rehabilitation of 109 North Adams Street, 101 North Adams Street, and 227 East Walnut Street, parcels 12-118, 12-122, and 12-119.
Should I get an overview?
Sure, please.
Sure, I'll come up. All right, so we've done these authorizations relatively recently. I think the last one was for the public market project. One before that would have been probably about 2 years ago for the Big Cock Garden rehab project on Dousman and Broadway. So the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation has these grants, CDI grants. They're $250,000 that allow applicants to apply to invest in downtown improvement projects. Cities can apply, but oftentimes lately, especially private developers apply. In order for WEDC to accept an application, the municipality with where that project is located needs to approve this resolution. So basically, it's just the city saying we support the project, and that gives WEDC the ability to accept the application and award the dollars. So this is, the specific application is for the Shower and Schumacher property on Adams and Walnut. It's an RDA-owned property here back a couple months ago. RDA and council approved a development agreement with this developer to rehab these properties. It's going to be a law office on Adams Street, The corner property is planned to be commercial, retail, with a second-story apartment building. And this is a historic property, one that the city, or I'm sorry, the redevelopment authority has owned for about 12 years. It's a special property. It's going to be a very complicated rehab, but we're
Very special.
very special. But we're very excited to see this get transferred to a private property owner who will invest significant dollars into this site and bring it to good use. So, happy to answer any questions.
2 questions.
Yep.
One is, I know it's 1 per year, 2 if you're in an opportunity zone, but is that the state's budget year or our budget year?
It's the state's, well, WDC's budget year, so that goes from, I think it starts in June. So, yes, this current fiscal year, we've got 2, the public market as well as this one. So this is the second and final one.
Okay, because I know their window is teeny tiny right now, right, to get through their underwriting process as well.
Yeah.
So obviously that has to go pretty quickly. And then my second question, and I guess, why I was asking it, right, I didn't know if it was going to apply to sort of the fiscal year that we're in, if it was going to roll over into the next one.
It's my understanding it'll be for this one. However, should they not make it, if they run out of funds for this fiscal year, this authorization should still work for the next fiscal year.
Okay, and then I thought, and you would know, did we not approve this resolution for Newland as well?
No.
Okay,
Now, they were considering this, I believe, but I don't believe we proceeded with that one. I think we just did public market and this one.
and I might be crossing what was actually formally put in front of us versus conversations that we had.
Could be.
So I just want to make sure, right, that we didn't overlook that if that was approved.
Yeah, they, actually, I do recall they were considering this grant after conversations with WDC. They didn't see that as being as competitive of an application. WDC strongly supports this project in the public market, so those are the 2 for this fiscal year that
Okay.
staff is recommending approval for.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Matt, obviously I've been communicating with WDC on the other one, and we were kind of told to have stuff in by April 15th to get through their underwriting at the state level, so I don't see why this wouldn't pass, but I would encourage the developer here to, like, lickety-split,
Yep.
so.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 5, consideration with possible action to approve a resolution to refund 2024 real estate taxes on parcel 21-4988 for Beth Wheelgus at 811 Amberley Trail. Any questions on this one?
Is there, oh, here it is, sorry, I didn't see it in the memo. I see it's written, the other file, so, I'm good. Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. On to informational, 2025 contingency account, 100,000. Next Finance Committee meeting will be held May 13th, 2025 at 4:30 PM. Motion to adjourn.
Quick question.
Oh, yeah.
Director Ellen Becker, the contingency account, I thought, at least up until the last meeting, the 24 contingency was still being reported. Has that officially been rolled over into the general fund?
Yes, that has, we just completed our audit. I don't have the final numbers from our audit yet, but that has now been rolled back in to our fund balance, correct?
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Okay, yes.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, we're adjourned.
I thought I was missing something. It's like, oh God, don't tell me I missed somebody.
Yes.
We just got the days for it to put on for our house. We're finally